Okay, so now we're going to talk about CMS platforms and logic. So again, this is probably a new term for most of you. So what we're doing is we're hard coding this 12-page project, right? But in the world of professionals, right, and often developers, you might want to here understand this. You might wonder, will developers really use this? And the answer is absolutely, depending on the use case that they're developing for. So, because a lot of what we need is just to be able to deliver content to a user, we're hard coding it. And really, there's better ways, there are dynamic ways through these systems that are content management systems. And they are as varied as the needs that they meet. Okay, so what I want to have you do in this discussion is actually, let's do this. What is a CMS? Because it's always good to start with, like, it refers to a content management system, right? It could also refer to a medical system. Okay, so for a content management system, the technology part of this, right? So this is where the software creates the users, allows them to create both the users and the content. So you can create, manage, and publish content. So really what this gives is a UI, a user interface already built so that you can hand a CMS site off to a user. And then what they would do, and they do it through WYSIWYG, right? What we see is what we get, which is really just a graphical user interface, but allows them to build their sites out without having the knowledge that you're acquiring in this course. Okay, there's many out there. WordPress is one. Wix, some Shopify. I didn't realize has one as well. So, but there's just many of them out there. WordPress is by far the most common. Wix, Squarespace, Webflow. I mean, you can see some of these here. So it's a software that is built to allow users to publish content without having the underlying knowledge. And you might go, well, how's this different than what we did when we generated a website? Well, in this case, it actually gives you all that built-in authentication, the ability for the user to log in, create accounts, log in, and then create content and manage that content. And so this video you're about to watch goes over what they are, but also how they work. And this is really where you start for our cases to kind of understand the benefits of, and it compares some of the most common ones, right? But it also teaches you about an important concept that I want you to in your notes refer to. So just before I get ahead of myself, so in your private repo inside lectures, you're going to create a new folder, CMS. And then in that CMS, create the readme.md, nothing new there, right? And then explain the difference between hard coding content and putting it in a database. So here's the key piece I left out of my description is that this content that users are creating is in a database. And then there's a hierarchy to that database, collections, records, fields. So you learn about all this because just knowing what a CMS is a good start, but knowing really what identifies a good CMS is the ability to organize this content to make it easier for users to publish their content in a way that makes it easier to organize the amount of content they have. And then you can do all-in-one contenders, like, what are those benefits as well, right? So that's the first part, is take your notes. Now the phase 2 of this, so here are your notes, here are your commits that you want to do along the way, because it follows the logic of what we have here. And then think about, right, look at your roadmap, your to-do, and just identify one collection. Now, you don't have to build this in yet, but this is actually a good thing to think about because what we're working on now is a menu. And in that menu will be a collection of related subpages that are off that menu link. So this is actually a good time to be thinking about this way of collections, records, and fields to think about how we are organizing our menu. So keep that in mind as you move through. So now what you're going to do is take a look at that and list 3 fields you would need for that collection. So you might think about one of your menu pages. What would be something like if you were looking, like we just finished the about, but think about some of the other pages in your site. How would you organize them, right? And that's really what you want to do here. And you put that in your README file and you make a heading like heading 1 for one collection. Okay, so first take your notes and then do your project zero reflection in order to take what you're learning and make it more concrete for yourself. Okay, so and this shows how the grading is done for this, because this is a lecture, it's not shared with everybody in the class. And then give me your commit history for that CMS folder. Okay, have fun learning about a really important thing still used relevant today, which is CMSs.